Hi BookTube, Lynette here, and in this video I am going to talk about my favourite romance authors. I would like to start off this video by saying hi to my new subscribers. I have now just hit over the 50 subscriber mark, and I just want to say thank you to you all, whoever you are. I know who some of you are, but not all of you, and I just want to say welcome and thank you for subscribing, and I hope you continue to enjoy my content. So, like I said at the start, today's video is about my favourite romance authors. I thought that it would probably be easier to talk about the authors rather than the favourite romance books, because I recently, in preparation for this video, sorted on my Goodreads page a shelf that was titled romance and just put all of the romance books I read onto that shelf. And there are over 800 of them. I knew there was a lot because I know that since September 2011 I've read in excess of 1,000 books, but I didn't realise that I'd read in excess of 800 romance novels in the last 9 and a bit years. So that was a bit daunting to actually try and choose favourite romance books from that list, so I decided to go with the authors instead, because there are authors that I have actually read multiple books in multiple series and multiple standalones as well, so I thought that would be easier overall. I'm going to start out not by going straight into my favourite authors. I'm going to start out by giving some honourable mentions, and the first of those is an author who I picked up quite a few years ago now, probably about 8 years ago now, and that is Corinne Callaghan with her Dragon Fury series. These are paranormal romance books set in America and surrounding a group of dragon shifter men and finding their forever mates. There is a new book coming out later on this year, which is really what triggered me to think about her. She hasn't released a book for a few years, so I haven't read her for a little while now, which is why she's on the honourable mentions list instead of the absolute favourites list. But I am planning to reread those books in preparation for the next release in the series later this year, because she's written two. Like I say, she's written one which is set in America, and then there is a little spin-off series which is set in Scotland, following a different clan of dragon shifters. So I'm looking forward to that one coming out, and I'm hoping that she takes herself back up into my list of favourite romance authors again. My second honourable mention is another paranormal romance author, and that is J.R. Ward with her Black Dagger Brotherhood series. This follows a clan of warrior vampires, again set in America, and again these vampire males are finding their forever mates. It's a slightly different take on the vampire genre with this romance twist. Vampires in this world do not feed off of humans. They have to feed off of each other, so they have to feed off of vampire females, and so they can't take blood from humans in this case. Some of their mates do come from the human world, but there is a twist on that, so you do have to read through them. I think at the moment we are up to 16 or 17 books. I am a bit behind. I've only read about 13 of them. I do need to catch up. But I'm feeling a bit daunted because in some ways I feel like I really do need a reread of the series, but they're quite chunky books as well, so yes, rereading them is a little bit daunting at this stage. My third honourable mention is Lorelei James. She writes contemporary romance. Specifically, for me, it is her series following a family of cowboys called the McKay family. And she doesn't just follow the main McKay family, she follows their cousins, and she has also, the last few books in the series actually follow the parents and grandparents of the children from the specific start of the series. So which was really nice, because you got to see how it all started and how these fantastic men, because they are fantastic men, came to be the examples they had that led them to be the men they are today. And I really enjoy them. I've actually read the series through about 3 times now, and I love coming back to them. Lorelei James has written a couple of other series which I've dabbled in, but I haven't really finished and haven't moved forward with. But word of warning, Lorelei James writes a very good sex, and a lot of it. So if you like a lot of steam in your novels, then definitely give Lorelei James a try. And another author who writes quite steamy novels is Katie Evans, and specifically this one I'm talking about her Real series. Again, I have read others by her, and I thoroughly enjoy her writing every time I pick up one of her books, but she's not a go-to author. She's one that I pick up as and when I see it and I feel like it. So the Real series follows Remington Tate, who is, I think it's kind of like an Ultimate Fighter type situation. And also, I think, I can't remember the name, but it follows the young woman who becomes his sports physio, and they fall in love. Remington has some mental health issues, and I felt that in this series that Katie actually did deal with those issues quite well. And I think that if you read them, you wouldn't be offended by anything that's in there. And again, very, very steamy. So if you like a lot of sex in your novels, in your romance, then again, give Katie Evans a try. Another honourable mention is Joanna Wild. With Joanna Wild, I don't really know if she's branched out, but I've only ever read her Motorcycle Gang series, which are, I think, primarily set in Australia as well. So a little bit of a different setting. And again, I really fell in love with these. I binged read her original series when I first discovered her through Amazon, and again, really enjoyed them. There is some real peril in these because motorcycle romances, they tend to have some violence in them. I would say think Sons of Anarchy with romance, and again, I really enjoyed them. I haven't really explored anything else that she's done. I have only read her motorcycle romance novels, but I did enjoy them, and I would reread them if I was looking for a MC romance that I'd read before and wanted to comfort read. Another paranormal romance author is Jessie Donovan. Primarily her Dragon Shifter series. She's actually got a main series, which is the Stonefire Dragons, and then there's spin-off series from that. So she initially focused all of the stories in Dragon Shifter clan in the north of England, but then she has branched out into clans in Wales and Scotland, the south of England, America, and it is actually now becoming a global story. Again, I'm a couple of books behind. I need to catch up. I'm hoping that I can do that again at some point this year. I manage to keep up and I get caught up, and then I fall behind a couple of books again. So I really do need to pick her up and get up to date. She has also written some other series. She's written a couple of Shifter series. She's written a supernatural romance series, and she's written an alien romance series. And I read a little bit of each of those, and again, thoroughly enjoyed the writing. I just need to get caught up, especially with her alien romance series, because she has a new book coming out later this year alongside the Dragon Shifter books. And my final honourable mention is Jennifer Blackstream, and she's only just made this list because in the last week and a half before filming this video, I actually finished her Blood Prince series. I think she's written more in the way of romance, but I haven't really explored yet, and I'm hoping to. But the Blood Prince series is fairy tale retellings with a kind of paranormal setting. So there are werewolves and there are demons and there are witches, but then there is Snow White and there is Ariel from The Little Mermaid, Belle from Beauty and the Beast, just all given different names and different guises, and there are twists on those stories. So Ariel doesn't actually end up with Eric, which I found really refreshing because their counterparts weren't exactly the counterparts that were in their original fairy tale settings, and I actually thoroughly enjoyed that. And like I say, I've only just recently finished it. I binge read the last 3 books in the series over the course of a few days, and I'm really glad I did. And actually, I really wanted to, it's one of the few times that I've actually thought, I want to go back and reread this and start again. So if you like a little twist on your fairy tales and you like a bit of romance, there's not a lot of steam in them. There is some, but not a lot. I would recommend giving Jennifer Blackstream a try. So those are all my honourable mentions, the ones that I will pick up and read, but they aren't go-to authors. They aren't ones that I feel I have to buy as soon as I see the books are available. So now let's move on to the list of ones that I have to read. So the first author that I'm going to talk about is M.K. Eden. And she's written a couple of different series, quite a few series. Most of them are alien, I think, in origin. But I'm specifically going to talk about the Tornian series. The Tornian series starts with a book called Grimm, and it's about an alien who comes across a ship that has a group of human women who have been taken hostage. And he liberates those women, and one of those becomes his forever partner. The Tornians, which are the race, the alien race, they celebrate and worship a deity that is just known as the goddess. And the goddess has decreed that there will be one woman for every male. But this is a new thing, and it's not something that the Tornian males know. The Tornian males, at the point that we pick up the story, there is one Tornian female for something like every 5 or 6 Tornian males. So women are very, very rare on their planet, in their group of homeworlds. So it's very, very difficult for them to carry on, and primarily they only give birth to men, to boys, when they do pair up. And women are seen as a commodity to be passed around, which is not very nice. But the women do have some control over it as well, because if they don't want to go, then they can say that. But specifically, my favourite book out of the series is actually Yenar. And this is about Yenar and Abby. They originally meet in the first book. Abby is very, very unhappy, and she's in the gardens on the Tornian homeworld, crying when Yenar comes across her. Only they don't see each other because they are both one side of the hedge. And Yenar talks to Abby and makes her feel better, makes her feel happier. And it's about their love story from there. At the point that their story starts, we know that they've fallen in love. We know that they have chosen each other. And it's about how they move forward from there and start building a life together, because Yenar is then given his own world to look after, his own palace, which they have to set up home in. And it's about the push and pull of a new relationship, new people moving in together for the first time, which I know from my own experience has its difficulties and its challenges. So it's all those different things, and about building a life together. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a really sweet story. I really, how much Yenar and Abby love each other really does come off the page. So I really do appreciate it for that. And it is the one that, when I think about M.K. Eden's books, this is the one that I tend to think about. Like I say, she has written other books. Most of them are alien in nature. There is another series that runs alongside the Tornians, which is the Kalizans story. That's another alien race that is set in the same world. And then I think there are lots of others which I haven't really, like some of the ones on the honourable mentions list, I haven't really branched out. But unlike the honourable mentions list, M.K. Eden, as soon as I see that a new book is coming out in either the Kalizans or the Tornians world, I have to buy it. Doesn't matter whether I'm on a book buying ban or not, I have to buy it. So that's why she makes the list of favourite authors. The next two authors on my list go back to the start of my journey with romance after I picked up the Kindle app back in 2011. And the first of those two authors is Vivian Arend. And at the time, I picked her books up because she was writing shifter romances. Specifically, I think the main series that I picked up at that time was her Granite Lake Wolves series, which is set in Northern America, right at where it meets Canada. So it's very snowy in places, but it follows a pack of wolves initially, and then from there it branches out, and she's done a spin-off series. And I've read lots of other books by Vivian Arend as well, but those are the ones that spring to mind the most. And in fact, recently I have actually just caught up and finished the entire series. And I really enjoy her writing. She is an author that I would go back to time and time again. I have kind of stopped following her because I had so many romance authors on the go. Quite some of the authors I have kind of lost track of where they are in their writing, because some of them are very, very prolific writers, and they do churn out books and books and books. There are some authors out there who release books 4 or 5 times a year, and when you're reading it can get a bit much, or I have found, and Vivian Arend was one of those for me. But in the early years of my romance journey, I did binge read a lot of her books. Again, there is some steam in them, not lots, but there is enough to make you blush. They're not always books that you want to read on public transport or in a public place, but I do thoroughly enjoy them, and I was really pleased that I picked her up again this year, and I probably will look out for more by her again sometime soon. And the second author that goes back to my romance journey after picking up a Kindle is Felicity Heaton. And I've talked about her in other videos, I think. I'm not sure whether they're ones that have been posted yet, but I know I definitely have mentioned her as an author who was quite influential when I started reading romance back in 2011. Specifically, again, she's written a lot of romance novels, and I think the ones that she's most known for are her Fated Mate series, which I think we are now up to something like book 18 in the series. Again, I've fallen behind with it. They're only novellas. I should be able to catch up really quickly, but they're ones that I really have to be in the mood for. I have recently read one of her books, which has brought her to the forefront of my mind again. So I possibly will try and catch up again in the next few months and give it a bit of a binge read, depending on how my TBR reading goes. But specifically, my favourite book, because it was the first one of hers that I read, is Dark Angel. This is an angel romance series, and again, there is some steam. There is some heat in these, and you do need to maybe not be in public when you read those passages. But I just really loved how the men really love the women that they meet, and want to protect them and want to do the best for them, but are able to find a compromise. The women are not simpering little sasses who, you know, when danger faces them, they don't just slink off and hide behind the men. They stand up and fight, and I really love that about this series. So, you know, there's no one really who's like a cowering mess in the corner. They are all strong and independent and feisty and stand up for themselves when they know that their men are in the wrong. So again, if you want maybe an angel romance, I know there are lots of angel romances out there, and there are some really great ones out there, and some authors who are really well known. But some of them aren't, but these are quite light, they're quite short, and there is plot there, but it doesn't move too much in terms of book to book. So again, thoroughly enjoy her. Like I say, I do try and buy all her books as they are released. I am behind with a couple of her series and I need to get caught up. So again, that's probably something I'm going to try and do later on this year. But I am really, really glad that I discovered her, and she is an author that I will go back to time and again. I'm really sorry if you can hear a rumbling or a humming in the background. The room that I film in is the room where the boiler is housed, and at the point that I'm filming this, our heating's kicked in, so the boiler's kicked in, so I'm really sorry about that. Right, on to the final two authors on my list of absolute favourite authors, and the first of these two is K. Bromberg. K is her initial. Her actual name is Christy, but for author purposes she goes by her initial, K. Bromberg. My absolute favourite book of hers is one that was only released last year, and that is Flirting with 40. This book is about Blakely, who is a woman who is recently divorced and is about to turn 40, or has just turned 40, I can't quite remember, but 40 is very nearby, and she's not feeling very good about herself. Her ex-husband left her for a younger model who in Blakely's view is slimmer and prettier and everything that she isn't. And then she meets Slade, and Slade is younger. However, he has no issues with her age, and in fact she doesn't really have any issues with his age either. But he, without even trying, makes her feel good about herself, and he makes her realise that perception, self-perception, is not always right. I read this book at a point where I was going through something very similar. My self-perception of how I looked and how I felt about myself wasn't great. I was already at the point where I was doing something about it, but also I had someone come along who behaved in a similar way to Slade, and without even trying made me feel good about myself. So I really heavily identified with the story, and with how Blakely in particular was feeling. This story, Blakely and Slade, Blakely has to go on a work retreat and they have to take their partners with them. And Slade agrees to step in and pretend to be her boyfriend for the entirety of the weekend, or the week, I think actually, that they're there. And there's lots of things that go on, some very funny moments. Slade sets Blakely's boss up for some very humorous moments, because she's actually not a very nice human being, or portrayed as quite, not a very nice human being, especially towards Blakely in this story. And that's really fun, and I really enjoyed the interaction between Blakely and Slade. They were learning about each other, they were building a friendship. It's kind of friends to lovers, kind of fake dating trope, but it was done excellently. Christy Bromberg has a real talent for writing human characters that have issues and doing them sensitively, doing them with a sense of realism, and you can either identify with one of her characters, or you can empathize or sympathize, or there haven't really been any of her characters that you've gone, I hate you. There is a character she's most known for her Driven series, and there is one female character in that, but even then, those of us that follow Christy on social media have been asking for years, we want to know what happened to that character. We want to know, did she ever get happy ever after? Because there were things that happened to her that none of us would wish on anyone, really. They weren't terrible, nasty things, but they were situations that she got herself into that you'd really want to see someone come back from and turn their lives around from. So yes, she does write excellent characters, and for that is the reason I think why I go back to her time and time again. She writes some really great sayings as well. At the moment, the one that keeps coming back to me at the moment is from her Everyday Heroes series, and that's from the first book, and it's Head Up, Wings Out. Just reminding me to keep my head up and to just keep moving forward, because every day you don't know what's going to happen. So I really absolutely love Christie's writing, and I come back to her time and again. I follow her on social media so that I can keep up to date with her releases, and I can't imagine a time when I would not be reading a Christie Bromberg book. And then the final author on this list is my absolute favourite, and she is the one author that I never fall behind with, always up to date. I follow her everywhere that I possibly can. I'm not on TikTok, so I don't follow her on TikTok, but any other social media channel that she has, pretty much I'll be following her. I'm a little bit obsessed. I'm very lucky to be on her team of people that she sends advanced reader copies to, so that I can read them a few days before release date and put reviews up for her. And I just absolutely love her writing, and that author is Samantha Towell. She writes contemporary romance like Christie Bromberg does, and my absolute favourite of hers has to be a book called Revved. This book is set in the world of Formula One, and it's about Andy and Carrick. Andy is a female mechanic in a very definite man's world. She is recruited to Carrick's racing team. He's the actual racing driver, the Formula One racing driver. And Andy has a rule that she will not sleep with drivers. Carrick makes it clear that he'd like to sleep with her, but she very firmly puts him in his place, and she tells him that while there may be an acknowledged attraction between them, they will only ever be friends. And throughout this book, you see the push and pull of their friendship, their feelings growing, how it makes them act out of character, how it makes them act in ways that if maybe they didn't have feelings for each other, they probably wouldn't have behaved. And it really does make you think. And again, I identified with this story quite heavily in terms of how their relationship played out. I've been in that kind of relationship, or that kind of friendship anyway. It didn't move beyond friendship. But she really does write characters that you can identify with. She's probably better known for her Mighty Storm series, which is about a series of a rock star group and the women they fall in love with. And I can't gush about her enough. I love her writing. I own all her books. Since she decided to set up what's sometimes referred to as street teams, although we don't act as a street team. We're more of a review team. I've been on it since the beginning, since she started. I've been very privileged to be able to receive the last 5 books as advanced copies, and I really don't know what to say about her other than I adore her writing, and she really does write really well. Her she can write a tortured hero, not quite as well as Christie Bromberg, but she can write heroes and heroines that you identify with and that maybe have sideline issues that you can identify with. And I would recommend her to absolutely everybody if you want to give romance a try. Her writing style is easy to read. Again, there is some steam in them, but maybe not too much. So for someone starting out, it would be a good introduction to the genre, and I would recommend her all day long. So those are some of my absolute favourite romance authors. Like I said at the beginning, I have actually sorted a shelf on my Goodreads page for all the romance novels that I've read since I started buying ebooks, certainly, because that's when I really started to get into romance novels. So if you want to have a look through or know any more about any of the books or the authors that I've talked about in this video, then please go and check that out. There is a link in the description box down below for all of the for my social media links, and especially it takes you through to my Goodreads page, so please go and check out my shelves if you want to know more. If you've enjoyed this video, then please give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel. Like I said, I'm very grateful to everybody who has subscribed in recent weeks and pushed me over that 50 mark, and I will see you all again soon in another video. Bye.